taxpayers' money are told to cut their top executive salaries.
25 anti-fascist protesters broke through a police cordon today and entered BBC Television Centre, where the corporation is recording tonight's Question Time programme with the BNP leader Nick Griffin on the panel. Scores of demonstrators are outside the building in London, incensed that the corporation invited Mr Griffin onto the programme. The BBC has spent much of the day defending its decision, arguing that it has to be impartial and cannot be expected to perform the role of censor. Sue Turton is at Television Centre.
Yes, John, you'd be forgiven for thinking that the BBC was under siege this evening with scenes like this, but actually there are only about a few hundred protesters here, although they have succeeded in shining the spotlight on Nick Griffin and the BNP. Now, one of the studio audience for Question Time this evening has been keeping me in touch as to what's been going on inside, and he told me that David Dimbleby came out, the chair of Question Time, came out to talk to the audience earlier, and he said that the BNP and Nick Griffin would feature large in the programme tonight, but it won't be the Nick Griffin show. A bit later on, one of the audience members asked Mr Dimbleby if he'd do a show of hands as to how many of the audience actually felt that Nick Griffin should be appearing. Mr Dimbleby declined, but there's no question here as to how the protesters outside the studios would have reacted to that question. The protest had been loud but well behaved. With all the criticism over policing of G20, the level was low-key, with a wary eye on just who had joined the demonstration. But the arrival of a number of cars with blacked-out windows tipped the balance. A number of protesters burst through the security cordon and made for the stage door. They didn't get far. By 5 o'clock, the demonstration had swelled to over 300, blocking the road. They were unaware that Nick Griffin was arriving via the back entrance. He'd told Channel 4 News on the phone that he was considering pulling out.
A little bit tricky, the gates wouldn't open, but we're here now, it's all right.
Clearly enjoying the limelight and hoping the image he puts out this evening will be at odds with what's been going on behind the scenes over the past week.
This is my party. I don't want you in my party, and as a member, it is up to us as members whether we decide to let you people in.
So when you say
hang on a minute, hang on.
Can you clarify?
Well, people that ain't like
BNP members secretly filmed outside a party meeting in Dagenham a week ago. On the very day the party was forced to change its constitution to allow non-whites to join, the campaign group Don't Panic filmed members stopping black and Asians from attending their meeting. The ugly side of the BNP, not the one Nick Griffin is planning to show tonight. Today he thanked Auntie for showing what he called a degree of principle in allowing him to appear, calling the politicians stupid as their hysterical reaction, he claimed, had given the party a whole new level of public recognition and a sharp rise in donations. In spite of last-ditch attempts last night by both Cabinet Minister Peter Hain and the chair of the Equality and Human Rights Commission, Trevor Phillips, to change the BBC Trust's minds, the corporation said today only Parliament was allowed to censor a political party.
We have to assess with care, in a sober manner, every month, every year, who should be on that programme and judge it to be consistent with those other minority parties that we invite as well.
The Beeb said tonight's audience had been vetted, as always, ensuring what they hope will be a cross-section of the public with a fair range of views, asking the questions and reacting to the answers.
I think it's quite a shocking sign of the times, but I think the decision for him to be on the panel is correct, because it gives everybody the chance to argue with him and hopefully see that his position is entirely untenable.
We live in a democracy and we all have the right to ask the questions, to get the answers, to be able to make the right vote. I don't agree fundamentally with what he stands for.
Joining me now is one of the demonstration organisers, Jerry Morrissey from BECTU, the Film and Broadcast Technicians Union. Jerry Morrissey, you've played almost into the BNP's hands here, haven't you? I mean, they've given them so much publicity this evening that if this demonstration wasn't here, they wouldn't have got.
Well, first of all, BECTU is not an organiser of it, we're a supporter. Our union has continually acted against the BNP. My members who work in this building do not want to have to work on BNP material which they feel is offensive. They do not believe that the BNP is a legitimate political party. It cannot be if it's a whites-only admission.
None of your union members were actually working on this programme this evening, were they? So none of them are actually involved in it.
None of my members are working on it because as a matter of conscience they refuse to work on it, but they could be working on it if they wanted to. And the same thing with party political broadcasts and other activities. We do not believe that the BNP should be given such a platform.
Is there not an argument here for free speech? I mean, at the end of the day, there was an opinion poll at the weekend who said the majority of people wanted them to be put on this platform and then to be torn down by the other speakers.
Well, I think the key thing, Sue, is that this is not the type of programme. This is a knockabout programme. It's not a sit-down interview with Jon Snow, with Jeremy Paxman and that, where we can go into the in-depth, vile policies of the BNP. This is just a knockabout show, and that is why we're opposed to this programme in itself.
Jerry Morrissey, thank you very much for joining us. Back to you, John.
Sue Turton. Well, just before we came on air, I talked to the Labour MP and Government Minister, Margaret Hodge. She's previously debated with the BNP on this programme and has a number of BNP councillors in her Barking constituency. I asked her if it would assist her work as an MP to have Mr Griffin on air tonight.
I've got 12 democratically elected BNP councillors in my constituency, and it's absurd for me to think that you cannot engage with them in a debate. In fact, it is through debate that you can expose their bigotry, their lies, and start drawing people back to mainstream parties. And I think in a democracy, where people are elected, we may absolutely abhor them, we may hate them, they may be as vile as you can think. But in a democracy, we have to uphold those values of democracy and debate through democracy, not through censorship. And quite honestly, I'm not prepared to give them an easy ride. I want to engage in them. And if you can remove, John, all the fluff that has been around, shouldn't they appear, and actually look at what's happened over the last couple of days, we've begun exposing Nick Griffin for what he is. Think about what he said about, esteemed British generals, that they should be Nazi war criminals. Think what he said about Obama, that Obama was a racist bigot, or I can't remember the precise words. And it's that exposure which will draw people away from the BNP and back to mainstream politics.
Well, you've debated him one-to-one. That's one thing. The problem tonight is that you get a round table with people sitting as equals, and you are sitting as equal, a man who's been Home Secretary, Foreign Secretary, and all the rest of it, and this chap Griffin, and you're therefore, in a sense, giving him an equality of esteem.
Well, I don't buy that argument. I think Jack Straw comes from the northwest. He comes from an area where people like in Barking are turning to the BNP, not because they share the same purpose, perhaps, that Nick Griffin does, but as a protest vote against the mainstream politics. Jack Straw understands that. Jack Straw actually will be very good, I expect, at getting to the heart of the matter and ensuring that we don't have this veneer of respectability that Nick Griffin occasionally tries to portray, and that mask comes down. I've seen it, John. I've had him at polling stations with me in Barking, where I've been on my own. He's been with a couple of people, and what does he do? He says, attacks me as an immigrant, and he attacks me as a Jew. He is a nasty, nasty man with an appalling set of values. But we need to show that to the public. And certainly for my constituents in Barking, that exposure, that engagement is part of the route to expelling them from the democratic arena.
Has that always been your view?
No. 15 years ago, I probably would have been outside, demonstrating outside the BBC. I have changed my view, and that's entirely from the work that I've done as a constituency MP.
And what do you say to those who say that when Le Pen of the French National Front appeared for the first time in one such programme, he emerged with a huge extra poll rating?
Well, I have confidence that the panel tonight will do their job properly. I mean, that's what we have to assume. It's a democratic arena. We are a democracy. We have to engage in that discourse and debate democratically. We'll see. It's a tough challenge for those who are on the panel to pull down that veneer of respectability.
And do you have any anxiety that
it.
you and I are just advertising this programme right now and drawing even more people to watch it?
If they watch it, and if it works right, we will see that the BNP is not what it claims to be, has got a false prospectus, is a bigoted programme, is racist and divisive, and if that is right, people will move away to that from that party and will move back to the mainstream politics, which are at the heart of what a good democracy is about.
Margaret Hodge, the Arts Minister, talking to me earlier.